Hello everyone, we are today here at the Military History Museum of the Bundeswehr in Dresden, and this is Magnus Pahl, who curated this exhibition on the German Fallschirmjäger. And here we have a very special uniform, a Luftwaffe uniform, yet for the Panzertruppen, because this is for the Fallschirm-Panzer-Division, the Parachute Tank Division. Now the question is, was this just a gag of Hermann Göring or some special kind, or was there actually something, was it just a prestige object, or was there actually some tactical, operational or doctrine thought behind it?
Yeah, for sure that it was not a gag. That we know for sure it's not a gag. Although it sounds a little bit funny, because a tank division, a panzer division could not be a parachute division. Yeah. That's of course everyone crystal clear. But in fact there is some doctrine and a relationship between tank forces and parachute forces by doctrine, because the idea behind was to land with airborne parachute divisions in the enemy's hinterland, and of course to link up with panzer forces advancing through in a conventional way of maneuver warfare to fight their way to the bridgehead or whatsoever. And so the idea behind was that those troops from the Fallschirm-Panzer-Division maybe in the future, we talk about January 1944, it was renamed as the Fallschirm-Panzer-Division in January, February 1944. And before it was called a Luftwaffen-Panzer-Division, an Air Force Panzer Division. And of course, that is quite, how can I say, in a military sense, some kind of, nonsense, because the Panzer divisions, of course, belong to the army, to the Heer, and not to the Luftwaffe, not to the Air Force. And that's why you asked me, is it a prestige question? And I would say yes, to a large extent, yes, because the Hermann Göring division was, the core unit was the so-called Regiment General Göring. And this regiment received, first of all, infantry training. Later on, air defense training was created as a Flak unit. And in 42-43 became finally a panzer unit. So, and so that's why they call it Fallschirm-Panzer-Division. It would be better, would be more right, more accurate to call it a Luftwaffen-Panzer-Division. But especially for propaganda issues, you can say so, they wanted to receive volunteers for this division, and the label Fallschirm Panzer Division makes it more attractive for the young volunteers from the Hitler Youth and so on.
So it was also for recruitment purposes. Might there also be basically a bit of propaganda in the sense of, okay, we have now a Fallschirm Panzer Division, like we are going back to the attack soon? In this sense, that this was like a bit of foreshadowing or something as well?
That was the doctrine from the general staff level, from the general staff perspective. They had, you can say in 1944, the dream, the hope, the far distant future that they were once again able to do so. But of course, the real situation during this period of war was different, of course. It was much more negative for the Germans. But the concept was, okay, we jump into the hinterland, especially on the Eastern Front, to destroy, that was a far-reaching goal, to destroy Russian, Soviet factories and infrastructure and so on and so on. And in the fantasy of the German Air Force General Staff officers, this was the purpose also for the Hermann Göring Tank Division. But it was, of course, in 1944, far from every reality.
And in that sense, was this also because the parachutes had bad experience with the army panzer divisions, or was it just, or was there some special training planned as well?
As far as we know, I mean, there are very few primary sources about the whole case, about the whole issue, and you have to try to recreate those doctrines. It's very difficult to get the whole picture of what, and the Hermann Göring division performed not very well, especially in Sicily in the summer of 1943, because most parts of this division were encircled, were destroyed at pockets in North Africa with the Heeresgruppe Afrika, and they were captured in early 43. And on the same time, they tried to recreate the division in Sicily. And they received their baptism of fire in July 43 on Sicily as a not totally equipped and recreated unit. So they had a lot of casualties and did not perform very well. And so it was from the beginning in 43 difficult especially for these divisions. And on the other hand, the expectations were very high. Of course, from Göring himself, it was his division. He was the owner of the division. That's why they had the Kampf title with Hermann Göring, with a lot of loyalty towards Hermann Göring. And that was very disbalanced, of course. High expectations and relatively low experience and performance, especially during the fightings in Sicily and south of Italy in 43.
Now, let's take a short look at the uniform itself, because you can see here on the colors we have from the Panzertruppen the skull, the death's head, which is different from that from the Waffen-SS. But the eagle is from, of course, the Luftwaffe.
Yeah.
And this would be, as far as you told me, this is not an original, likely the
skull bones, the Totenkopf.
Yeah, and
the Iron Cross second
would be
class.
A second class, and there's the Kampf title.
Yes, exactly.
And what rank would this be, Oberleutnant?
Was an NCO, not an NCO, a Feldwebel.
Yeah, it's not golden, because
And black was chosen for the tank troops before the starting of the war, because black was not so. In those days they had a lot of oil and had to repair their tanks and so on and so on. And it was not so sensitive like the field gray uniform, and so they introduced black uniforms, especially for the panzer crews, and to a lower extent also sometimes to Sturmgeschütz, self-propelled guns crews, but mostly that was a distinctive item for the tank troops. And as a tank division, the Hermann Göring division received nearly the same equipment as a panzer division from the Heer, but it had some special equipment as well. For example, in the Panzer Division of the Heer, you had only one company for maintenance. And they had a whole battalion, an Abteilung. So
battalion.
It's for sure that the maintenance service was bigger in 43 than usually in the tank division of the Heer. And you had some differences. For example, they received state-of-the-art equipment like the newly introduced Puma connaissance with 8 wheels. And the Hermann Göring division was one of the first divisions which received Puma, which received also the Wespe, self-propelled gun, and they had state-of-the-art equipment. And also, according to a primary source, the recalling of a veteran from the division, they received also the later so-called Sturmgewehr 44. So they, Hermann Göring tried to equip his division with the best material which was available at the time, and of course with the best personnel. young volunteers, mostly from the Hitler Youth, of course. And that was the goal to equip them very well and to have very good young, voluntarily fresh personnel in the division.
I assume, I'm not sure if you know that, but it's hard to tell. Did it also have a stronger AA detachment?
Yes.
or battalion? Yeah.
Because that was one of their origins, the Flak role, and they started the Eastern campaign as a Flak regiment in the East in 41, I think also in 42, and that was one of their origins. And another origin, of course, is the close tie with the paratroopers, because the regiment General Göring in 33, the first volunteers for the first parachute battalion came from the regiment General Göring. So that is, of course, the core unit, if you want so. But there was some kind of rivalry between the Hermann Göring division itself. It was later a corps, on a corps level. No, so.
Because the division was not enough.
No, they created two divisions. And the real jumping forces, the real paratroopers. And the real paratroopers also were a little bit arrogant towards the comrades from the Hermann Göring division. There are some sources about this that they say no.
I think you mentioned in your book that they requested Jagdpanther to have a Jagdpanther Abteilung, a Jagdpanther battalion.
No, that was the Fallschirmjäger division.
The Fallschirmjäger, yeah. And Jagdpanther, as mentioned in my video, is a heavy and tank destroyer, which was Heerestruppe, and to attach this to a basically light infantry division is a bit. It's let's say it's a special wish, and this, of course, since they looked at the division, I guess, and they have tanks and everything, then this makes probably more sense, because a Jagdpanther, that's the heaviest of the heavy.
Maybe that was that is quoted from a memorandum from the autumn of 1944, and the commander of the 4th Fallschirmjäger division had the special wish to have own Jagdpanthers at his disposal, but of course that was wishful thinking and not a real.
I mean, from the whole organization and everything with Heerestruppen, this would make very little sense.
Yes, of course.
I mean, attach them for a special mission or something would make sense, what was done usually with Heerestruppen, but to have them as organic unit is like, Yes,
and on the organizational level, it was, Hitler ordered in late 43 that there should be a whole parachute army. Fallschirmarmee on the army level, and therefore they wanted to install 2 corps headquarters with 6 divisions.
Also 3 divisions for each corps.
Yes, and the Hermann Göring division should have been integrated into the Fallschirm army in 1944.
Yeah, okay.
That was the aim. So
6 divisions, and then you add some corps troops and you add some army troops. Yeah, that's a lot of equipment and very expensive.
Very, very ambitious, of course, and the thinking behind was in terms of the deployment of the Fallschirmarmee was to use them in the fightings in northern France in the spring of 1944, which was predicted by the German military intelligence, the D-Day. And the Fallschirmarmee, that was the idea from Hitler and Göring, should fight against the D-Day troops.
That basically is a counter-attack army.
As a counter-attack army, and there were also some ideas even to use them as some of the forces from those roundabout 6 divisions, to use them in night jump missions and to to go directly during the first 24 hours to attack the beachhead with on parachute forces. That was one of the ideas the commander-in-chief of the Fallschirm-Armee, General Coach Student had. That was an idea from him.
This was very ambitious because I think I remember one primary source where they noted, light attack is not really a possibility because you need very well-trained troops. And we're talking about regular infantry
Absolutely.
here, not parachute infantry. I mean, So,
maybe it would have been a suicidal attack.
Yeah.
So, and that was the assessment of veterans after the war, discussing those plans from Student. They said, no.
I mean, it might have caused enough disruption for the Allied troops that a regular counterattack during the day might have been more successful. So in that sense, it might have worked because there's already a lot of confusion going on during the invasion.
Yes, that was the thinking.
So,
and he earmarked one regiment, Fallschirmjägerregiment 16. Former it was named Fallschirmjägerregiment 5, with veterans from fighting in North Africa and very combat experienced veterans. And that was Students thinking to use them against the beachhead during D-Day landing. And that was always his goal, to collect all the parachute units under his Fallschirm-Armee and to deploy them all together in northern France in the spring of 1944. And Student always tried to draw all units out of Italy, especially the Hermann Göring tank division, Fallschirm-Panzer-Division, Hermann Göring, and also the 1st Parachute Division, the 1st Fallschirmjäger-Division. That was his idea, to use them against the Allies on D-Day, because that was foreseen as some kind of decisive battle, of course. And the Fallschirm-Armee the idea was to use the Fallschirm-Armee because they thought, okay, that's the point of main effort, the Schwerpunkt in the West in spring of 1944. And the paratroopers were seen as, like the Waffen-SS units, tank units and so on, as reliable elite forces. And so they wanted to concentrate them in northern France to engage D-Day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
okay.
I think we answered the question and we got some better idea about the concept and also about the Hermann Göring Fallschirm-Panzer-Division. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Also a big thank you to the Military History Museum of the Bundeswehr Dresden. As always, sources are listed in the description. Thank you for watching and see you next time.
See you.